All right, hey guys, I have gonna be the first time that I'm filming pressure canning pork. I have a friend who wanted to learn how to pressure cook, so he was gonna come over. We were gonna do it one day when we were pressure canning, but he just hasn't been able to make it. So I'm going to can these pork loins that I got from Costco. So they were $1.99 a pound, but they had a special $8 off per package. So that made these like $1.08 a pound for just pure good pork. So we can't eat this. They won't all fit in our freezers. So what I'm going to do is pressure can them. And that does a couple things. It will preserve them, but it'll also let us keep them on a shelf, and they'll basically be good forever. Everyone says 2 or 3 years, but there's no difference in that and a can of tuna fish that you buy at the store. They're canned the same way. So I did use, well, I started out first by watching a lady on YouTube. Her name, or her channel, is Rose Red Homestead, and her husband kind of pressure can stuff. I bought the book. So this is the Ball canning book that gives you all the steps and ingredients, and has a lot of good recipes. Raina and I have done, we did honey glazed carrots. We bought a bunch of carrots from Costco. So we did those. We've cooked smoked pork butt on the Traeger, and then it's only 2 of us, so we can only eat so much. So we've packed it in jars and then pressure can that as well. When ground beef goes on sale, we've done meatballs. Well, last year we bought, I think, 6 turkeys all together when they went on sale at Costco after Thanksgiving for like 59 cents a pound. So we sat up here. It took us a whole day with really sharp knives. We pulled all the meat off the turkeys, and we packed that and just dry packed it. We didn't put any liquid in there, and we canned those. That makes the best like turkey salad sandwiches with some relish and mayo. But anyway, I got these guys on sale, and again, our freezer's kind of full, so we have some jars, and yeah, I'm going to show you how I cut them up and then pressure can everything. All right, guys, so I'm going to show you kind of what I have going on here. So these are the 3 pork loins that I got on sale, and what we're going to do is pack those in these pint jars. Now I've already washed those jars in hot soapy water, rinsed them, and they're just sitting there waiting to be used. Over here I have the pressure canner itself. I've got 2 inches of water at the bottom. I've already got it started. It's just at really low. You don't want to put cold stuff in the canner. So I'm just starting to warm up the water. We'll get that canner loaded, and the jars will come up to temperature with the canner itself. And back here I've got the lids and rings in hot water, getting ready to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this pork, and we're going to dice it. I'm going to cut some of the bigger fats off. It doesn't have much fat, but just a little on the back. So we'll be cutting that. All we want is the pure pork protein cubes. And I was going to warm these up in the oven after I cube them, but I've decided that I'm gonna pack them cold. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add some broth in the jars whenever I do, and I'll be showing you that. With those turkeys that we had last year, when we were finished with the carcasses in a big stock pot, we stocked it all up with onions, celery, seasonings, the bones, and basically boiled it until we got this bone broth. And then we strained everything out, pressure canned the bone broth itself, or it's turkey stock, but it's really good. You can see the color difference. That's because a few of the turkeys I smoked before we did the bone broth, and a few we just did raw. So that's why they're two different colors. All right, so for the broth that we're going to be pouring over the pork, I'm going to open these two jars, and when you open them, you want to make sure you can hear the seal pop, just confirming that they've had a good seal. Oh, it smells good. So I'm going to add both of these jars. Makes me want to have Thanksgiving again. All right, so I got those, and I'm going to add, I did half of an onion. This is a yellow onion, so half an onion, about 3 cloves of garlic, and I did 1 teaspoon of salt, and then these are going to be spicy pork chunks, so I have 1.5 tablespoons of crushed red pepper. And then while we are getting everything ready, we will put this pot on the stove and just let it simmer to combine all the flavors. All right, let's set 2 of these aside. We've got a bowl here that we'll put the pork in. I've got my cutting board in a big baking sheet because these things are going to put off some juice when you open them up, but it'll all be contained in the baking sheet. Okay, let's get this thing out of here. Okay, here's that layer of fat that I was telling you about right on the back. So all I'm going to do is just cut some of that off. We don't have to get it all off, but we just want as much pure protein in this as we could get without any extra fat. Okay. Definitely not a butcher because I butchered it, but you can see I got most of the pork off. I'm okay leaving a little bit of that on there, and then I'm just going to feel around, make sure there's no bone fragments or anything like that. So then again, all I'm going to do is cut it up into about 1 inch chunks. So you know, these pork loins make great pork chops. You can put those on the smoker. They'll turn out great. So yeah, so I'm just gonna cut these up into 1 inch cubes. Mila's coming in to see what Daddy's doing. All right, so you can see I got these 1 inch chunks. So I'm going to put them in the bowl, and then I'm going to finish this one and then do these other 2, and as soon as I'm finished, we'll be putting these pork chunks in the jars. Alright guys, so we're back. I was able to get 2 bowls of big 1 inch pork chunks. And then I immediately realized that these are all of the pint jars that I have. I have bigger quart jars down in storage, but I wanted to try to get them in these pints, which would be perfect dinner for just the 2 of us. But what I did was that is all the trimmings off of those 3, which was 24, 18, 16, it was 23 pounds of pork altogether. But I made 2 roasts, or cut those out. These are great if you vacuum pack them and marinate them in Yoshida's seasoning and then put them on the smoker. But also I cut us 2 really nice pork chops. So we have all those pint jars that are going to be filled with the pork chunks, and then we have 2 big meals here and a 3rd meal out of this. So we'll be able to count at the end, and we'll see how many meals we actually get from it. Our turkey stock broth is cooking away. The lids are nice and sanitized. The jars are drying up good. So I'm going to clean this mess up and we will start packing jars. Okay, I got us everything set up. We have our clean washed jars. We have our broth that we're going to put in there over the pork chunks. So I got my lids and rings right here. So first thing, let's start packing them up. So I got a couple different tools. I've got this little funnel that helps keep some stuff off of the rim of the jar. We're going to wind up cleaning that with just distilled vinegar and a paper towel. But for proteins, if you get any of the fats and oils on the ring and you don't get it off, then it won't seal properly in the canner, and you'll have unsealed jars. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to drop these in here, and we want to leave 1 inch from the top. So I'm going to pack these in here pretty good, but I want space for some broth. So we'll put a few more. Yeah. Yeah, so we'll do about like that. And then what we're going to do is, I'll put it close so I don't make a mess, and we're just going to ladle some of this broth right over the top. Little onion pieces went in there, that's good. And then I'm going to take my tool, and what I'm going to do is just move this stuff around and make sure there's not any bubbles. Did you see how far that liquid went down? There was a huge air bubble in the bottom. So anyway, I'm just going to add a little more. We'll get up to that 1 inch headspace, and then we will set it to the side. Keep going. I've got my funnel. All right, we're going to put them in there. Like I said, we want to get enough pork in there for a good meal, but we don't want to, or I don't want to, cram it all the way down in there where there's no room whatsoever for, you know, that broth. So we're getting some good chunks in there. This is going to be great. And this stuff is going to live in our pantry on the shelf. It's not going to need to be refrigerated. It's not going to need to be frozen. And it's good to eat right out of the jar. You just, you know, warm it up back on the stove, or, you know, in the instance with these chunks, I'm thinking whenever I open a jar is drain a little bit of the liquid off, and then just right into a frying pan and sear these cubes up, give them a little bit of like caramelization on there. So, all right, I'm gonna go ahead, pack the rest of these, and then when we get ready to load the pressure canner, I'll bring you back, because you don't want to stand here and look at my belly while I pack pork. So, okay, we wound up packing all the jars. I ran out of pint size, so I had to go get quarts, which means I'm gonna have to run a whole second batch through the pressure canner, because these cook at different times. So these pints are gonna go for 75 minutes in the pressure canner once you're up to temperature and up to pressure. The quarts go for an hour and a half, 90 minutes. So we're gonna have to do those separate. I don't even remember how many jars fit in the pressure canner. I know we're gonna do two layers. So what I'm gonna do is I put a splash of vinegar in the water in the pressure canner as well. And what that does is if there's any siphoning, so if any of the jars bubble up through the lid and the contents get in the water, it'll keep the outside of the jars from getting cloudy. So I've got my paper towel. All I'm going to do is make sure that rim is cleaned really good, because that lid has to sit right down on there and form a good seal. If there's any a piece of garlic or any oil residue or anything, then it'll just prevent it from sealing. When you get it out of the pressure canner, if you have a few jars or a jar that hasn't sealed, it's not the big deal. You can just let that cool down completely and put it in the refrigerator and eat it in the next day or two. Another thing you could do is take the lid off and the ring off, and then run it through the pressure canner again, as long as it gets that full time in the pressure canner. Your lid's on. You got your lid on, and just kind of finger tight, not really more than that. Oop. Let's start by loading this pressure canner. So as you can see, I have about 2 inches of water in there, so I'm going to go ahead and put that on about a 4, and then let's start loading it up. Okay. Okay, as you can see, I got 8 pints in there. So I can still load more, but what I'm going to do is we're going to put that little trivet in there. I think that's what it's called. Because I don't want to stack the jars right on top of each other, because that could affect how they seal. So we're just going to put there you go. So it'll look just like that. I'm going to finish those up, and then we'll come right back. Alright, so I wound up getting all of our pint jars in there. So there's a layer of 8 on the bottom. We have that little spacer, and then 8 more on top. Again, there's 2 inches or so of water in the bottom, and then a splash of white vinegar. So now what we're going to do is put the lid on, and first I check and make sure my gasket is clean, not ripped or torn or twisted. Put that on there, and then you just lock it down like that. We are less than 1,000 foot elevation, so we're going to take our pressure dial up to at least 11. It can't fall under 11. So what we're going to do, I've got the temperature on the stove turned up. So we're going to let this come up, start building temperature. When that does, this vent is going to start spewing a little bit of steam. Well, we want to replace all of the air in the pressure canner with just steam. So When this starts a healthy stream of steam out, then we're going to start a timer for 10 minutes. And then once that 10 minutes is up, we are going to put the cap on. Once we put the cap on, then our dial will start increasing up to 11. Once we get to 11, then we can start our 75-minute timer for the pork. And then once that, we'll keep it at 11. If it dips below 11, you have to get it back to 11 and restart your timer. So we are going to let that come up, steam for 10 minutes. We'll put the cap on, build the pressure to 11, and then we will start our 75-minute timer. All right, so the pressure canner went for a little over 75 minutes, about an extra 4 minutes, which is okay. When the timer went off for 75, I turned the stove off and then didn't touch it, didn't move it, and just let it cool down. So the temperature has reduced all the way to 0, and the pop-up pressure indicator just fell. So at this point, it's safe to take off the jiggler, and then we're going to open this up, but there's still going to be a lot of steam. So when I open it, I'm going to open it away from myself so I don't get the steam in my face. All right, just set that out of the way. So these things are still really hot. I'll take some of these boys out. All right, you can see them still boiling in the, still boiling in there. Okay, so these lids, I'm sure you've heard a few, they're popping right now, but altogether between these 16 pint jars and the 2 quarts and the 2 pork roasts and the 2 pork chops that I cut, so altogether those 3 pork loins that I bought for $1, I think it was $1.06. I figured up it was less than $1.10 a pound. We were able to get 40 servings from these pork, so it was really cheap. These things, we're going to wash the jars tomorrow after they cool off, and we're going to remove the rings, and then we'll put them down in our cool dry storage area, and they're gonna be tasty.